We are all so vulnerable in love, and our partners can so easily spark our deepest fears, those dark places where we're all just waiting to be rejected or deserted and left to face life alone. What we often see in our research studies with distressed couples is the toxic and triggering nature of emotional shutdown. It's very hard for most of us to really grasp how we can possibly threaten our lover by doing simply, well, nothing, right? By staying silent or distant. In fact, when we shut down, we shut our partner out, and that is an actual danger cue for our lover's contact-seeking mammalian brain. If we think of love as a dance, then leaving the dance floor or simply standing still really drives our partner crazy. And they nearly always get more aggressive to force us to respond. We shut down to protect ourselves or to try to stop the conflict. But it so often backfires. And when you find that you cannot engage, you don't really have to do this. You can signal this in a way that doesn't freak your partner out. It's a matter of simply saying where you are on the dance floor. Research says that walling your partner off simply freaks them out and fuels their anger. It feels like a protection, but in fact, it sets fire to your relationship. Here is what saying where you are rather than shutting someone out sounds like when it works. Tim shouts, "What's happening here? You go silent on me. You always do this, like I don't matter. I'm only talking myself then." Pat looks up at Tim and says, "You're right. I do shut down. This kind of conversation really shakes me up. I don't mean to leave you all by yourself. I just get confused and overwhelmed, and I just want to get away. I worry that you're just disappointed in me. I just need some space here. I just need to slow down and get my breath." Tim says, "Oh, okay, I didn't know that you felt that way. It's a hard conversation for me too. We can slow down. We can help each other a little. Sorry for shouting." Recent research says, first, that we know that habitually shutting a partner out in difficult conversations predicts escalating relationship distress, breakdown, and divorce. Second, bonding science explains just how this happens in bonding relationships. Stonewalling, walling someone off, turns on panic in a partner's nervous system, a nervous system that's wired for connection. It's like their loved one suddenly disappears on them, is suddenly unreachable behind an emotional wall. Then, desperate to connect, the partner tries to batter the wall down, to force their loved one to respond so they don't have to feel so abandoned. As a result, stonewalling most often actually fires up anger and conflict rather than calming it down. This makes sense. Like most things in love, this makes sense. We depend on someone, and when we do, when there is no response or they shut down, this sparks shock and helplessness in us. There is suddenly no relationship. We have no impact, we're all alone. Emotional rejection from someone we depend on registers in our brain in the exact same way as physical pain, and they both hurt. The take-home message here is that a key part of dancing well together is to be aware of your impact on your partner. Emotional shutdown feels like shut out to your partner, and it's a disastrous strategy. First of all, though, I want to say that usually when we talk about healing injuries, we think about forgiveness. And I guess from the point of view of emotionally focused couples therapy, which is trying to create secure bonds between couples, there is a sense in which the forgiveness of these injuries is the booby prize. because the EFT therapist does not just want people to forgive each other. If you look in the literature on forgiveness, a lot of the literature on forgiveness is very abstract, very moral, talks about becoming rational, letting go of resentment. So from an EFT point of view, that there's something missing there about emotional process, but also it's not okay to just have somebody cognitively forgive or let go of resentment. What we want in EFT is the kind of healing of toxic injuries and forgiveness of key violations of human connection, because that's how we see them. What we want is not just forgiveness, but we want the kinds of emotional forgiveness that allows you to be open again and leads to reconciliation, that leads to the ability to trust again. So that's what we're after in EFT. There are not many research studies on helping distressed couples heal injuries in their relationship, whether they're affairs or other kinds of moments of real injury that people just can't get past. There are really only two approaches that have been really studied. One is the more CBT approach, and basically, let me see if I can remember her name, Gordon, Backham and Schneider have done a small study looking at forgiveness in couples. And from their point of view, they focused a lot on helping people give up resentment, and they structured a lot of communication sequences where people could start to understand the meaning of the injury and accept what had happened. I think this is pretty different from what we do in EFT, where we focus much more on processing of difficult emotions and moving people into really being able to connect again. We have one study in the EFT literature on forgiveness. In that study we found that 65% of the people who came into the study with very serious injuries that were causing distress in their relationship were able to really reach forgiveness, were able to learn to trust each other again and be open to each other, and that those 65%, 3 years later, the results were stable. So this is very encouraging. The people who did not, many of the couples who were not in that 65% ended up having their relationship improved, but they didn't get through into really being able to say that the injury was finished and they could really forgive, and they didn't completely repair their relationship. And many of those couples had dual injuries. Both partners had hurt each other very seriously. And what they told us in the exit interviews was that we hadn't given them long enough. We gave them, in that study, we gave them 13 sessions, which maybe isn't enough for a seriously distressed couple who have very serious injuries to work through. So I think maybe I'm going to stop the intro there, and I'm going to back up a little bit and talk to you about EFT, because I need to put the whole discussion of injuries and in the context of the model of EFT. And I haven't got that many slides in this webinar. I think the main way I decided that I wanted to help you understand these injuries is to tell you stories, so I'm going to do that. Perhaps it's worth stating right from the beginning that when we went in and started looking at these kinds of injuries, we thought about them as traumas. We thought about them as trauma with a small t, because from the point of view of attachment theory, it is indeed traumatizing. It induces helplessness. If you think about the definitions of trauma, it induces helplessness in people to suddenly find that the person they depend on cannot be depended on. That the person that they think about as the solution to fear is now a source of fear. This completely destabilizes people, confuses them, creates helplessness, which is the main definition of trauma. The essence of trauma is helplessness. So we think about these kinds of injuries as relationship traumas. And I'm not talking I'm not talking about the kind of general compounded hurts that nearly every couple that come to see you have, where they can talk about their hurts for a long time. I'm talking about people that have hurts, but there's one or two particular incidents that completely stand out, that are like time bombs that have gone off in the relationship, and that sabotage every attempt to get the couple to be open and to really be able to trust each other. These are not just hurts that have been compounded or negative patterns of interaction. These are more like real specific traumas. If you ask me how many couples have these, it's kind of difficult to know. But if you ask me to guess, I would say between 30 and 40% of couples that come in to see you have these traumatic injuries. And of course, some injuries are much more significant than others.